It's time to rev your engines. The Syracuse Nationals proudly presents the Cavalcade of Cars, March 22nd through 23rd at the New York State Fairgrounds. The two-day indoor car show features all the classics, plus lifted trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles, and more. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com.
You know what I love, Steve? Being a jerk.
Listen, dude, we've been doing a show for 90 minutes.
I had a chance to listen to the last call. We game plan for PJ Hall.
Uncle. I have a list of guys I would never hang out with. Your name is right on the top.
Do you like the worst song bracket we're doing?
It's considerably better than the supplement bracket. Let's start with that.
I won a limbo contest.
Oh, my God.
Fran Brown joining us.
These guys are working their butts off. They expect to see that fame.
You want extra money just because you're North Carolina? I'm in awe right
What
now.
an honor for you and Jordan to be next to me
every
daily.
day.
This is Orange Nation.
There's music, there's fun, there's us. It's everything you could want all in one place.
With Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us alongside Paulie Sibilia. I'm Stephen Fonte as we welcome you into a Tuesday edition of Orange Nation. We're going to talk with Jackson Holzer, host of Locked On Syracuse.
Ooh, the guy we're scared to have on. This guy we're scared to talk to.
Coaching tree, Paulie.
Pat said, let's get him on. Okay, we'll have him on for the second time, maybe even third. I don't know. We've had him on before.
We have had him on before. Ric Beardsley, four-time All-American, coming up at 1 o'clock.
We will also play What Did Rick Have for Lunch Today for NC State tickets. So
Okay.
get your guesses ready.
I forgot that was a thing. Looking forward to that.
It's a great game,
It
dude.
is. We'll get to today's business. We'll get to your phone calls throughout 315-437-7644. What's up, Paulie?
Not much. I had a fan. Not a fan. A person approached me and told me I would never make it in New York City.
Okay.
I was like, oh, yeah, okay, great. I was like, I'm not in New York City. There's a reason you can, there's a huge market size difference that you can't say the things in smaller cities that you would in bigger cities. I don't get, there's no common sense in this world anymore. I struggle with it. One thing that stuck out to me yesterday, a lot of people saw the numbers that Mike Waters put out, and the Kadari Richmond number was pretty big. Like Syracuse had offered Kadari Richmond, according to that article, $700,000.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, where did that money go? Probably either into the NIL coffers or back into the donor's pocket. Because the donors probably said, if you could get Kadari Richmond, we'll give you this amount of money. Whereas we're not giving you that for, say, a different point guard who doesn't. You don't pay just $700,000 to every point guard.
Yeah.
Just so your NIL's higher. Rich people don't get rich being stupid.
Right.
Right? Like, there's probably guys out there that are willing to donate money to Syracuse, but they're not going to donate it to get the point guard from Duquesne.
Right. Well, Mike Waters talked about that in the article, right? That there were certain players that they were in on, but they didn't think the what the player was asking was worth it, and so they passed. That happens, right? You don't want to overspend on somebody, and people will say, well, did they overspend on Eddie Lampkin? We could debate that. He's been very good at the end of the season. Beginning of the season, he struggled. I think we all realize now that he was injured at the beginning of the season. But again, if you want to talk about how they, broke up their NIL money and did they give too much to one guy, and that discussion can be had. But to your point, you're not going to try to overspend, right? You're going to try to get value for your NIL dollars, and they couldn't land Kadari, and he ended up going to St. John's. He's having a great year.
LeFew or Gale would amount to 6 or 7 more wins this year. That makes the tournament team not worth $700,000. It depends. Do the people, you can't go to a donor and say, hey, we think Dakota LeFew is going. Do you guys realize that, if you have a name brand like Kadari Richmond, you've seen him play here, you've seen him excel at a Power 4, Power 5, whatever it is, Big East, if you want to consider that. People spend their money smartly if they're rich. The name Dakota LeFew isn't going to move someone in Syracuse to throw $700,000.
Yeah, and again, if going by the article, it sounds like, based on what Mike Waters was reporting, that it wasn't $700,000. They were about $100,000 off for Dakota LeFew. I don't know. Philly's Most Wanted brings up an interesting point. Like, do you? And I'm asking this collectively, like not you necessarily, Paulie, or you, Philly's Most Wanted, but you guys could chime in on this. Do we think that SU is a player away from being an NCAA tournament team?
Well, here's my thing.
Like this team, I'm saying.
So if you have a point guard who's very good,
yeah,
Eddie Lampkin, Donnie Freeman, Chris Bell making shots,
right,
and JJ, maybe.
Right. But I'm saying the season played out the way that it did. JJ was hurt. Donnie missed the whole second half of the season.
Chris Bell misses everything.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. We're on the same page on that. I agree that it would have looked a lot better from the start if they had Dakota LeFew, running the point instead of Jaquan Carlos. And I think we would all agree that it took Jaquan Carlos a little bit to figure it out. He's played better of late. He's still not, he's limited. Let's put it that way.
He's very good at Hofstra.
Yeah. And, I think that, when he came here, I think we all kind of got hung up on the fact that he was, an all-defensive player in the conference, and that did not translate to the ACC, obviously. I think it would have looked a lot better from the start, and if they had stayed healthy, I think you could make a case that one player makes that big of a difference, and maybe this team is, on the bubble or knocking on the door of the NCAA tournament. As it stands right now, I mean, you look at the standings, the ACC only has 3 teams in the tournament at the moment. North Carolina is trending in the right direction. Maybe Wake or SMU could get hot, but they're on the wrong side of the bubble right now. So I don't know that if we could say one player would have made this definitively an NCAA tournament team, but I think it would have looked a lot better from the start, and, who knows? Maybe if you do win one of those games in New York over one of the Texas teams, maybe the rest of the season goes differently. But again, given the injuries, you lose JJ, you lose Donnie. As you mentioned, Chris Bell didn't make a shot for a month. I don't know that this is an NCAA tournament team.
Donors don't watch tape of players, I'm guessing. If Fran Brown comes to me and says, I can get Kyle McCord from Ohio State, that money's going to come easy.
Sure.
Easier than it would if you say, I can get the quarterback from, McNeese State, right? Because I've seen Kyle McCord play. Let's do it. Can you get me money for Kadari Richmond? Yes. Dakota LeFew? I'll probably give you less because I don't know who the hell that is.
Sure. That's fair. That's fair.
Does that make sense to people?
It makes perfect sense. I don't know if that's what happened, but yes, I
kind of figure.
I could see that conversation
and
happening.
if there's somebody in charge of Syracuse's money, they're going to be like, we can't pay that much for somebody who isn't going to be a complete game changer because we don't have a lot. I don't know. There's people that thought the other thing is this show gets more viewers and listeners when they're losing. And everybody's like, you got to be nice, blah, blah, blah. Like, if I was piling on with you guys, you probably wouldn't listen. You'd be like, oh, yeah, that guy's just regurgitating what I think. Here we go. This weird notion that you guys know exactly why I say the things I say, and Steve says, we realize, we're not a-holes. It's the only way I can put it. This has been an awful basketball season.
Yes.
You're just, you want me to just crap on everybody? That goes into New York and Syracuse. I'll run into the people I'm crapping on at Wegmans here in New York City. I'll never see them. It's just there's common courtesy in how you handle things. I know it's been a bad basketball season. Coach Autry knows it's been a bad basketball season.
Yesterday on his weekly ACC teleconference, he was asked if he could see this coming this year at the beginning of the season. And I don't know if you heard the answer, but he talked about, and I played it on News Channel 9 last night, he said that obviously going into a year, you want to be positive, you want to be optimistic. He ended the soundbite by saying, I did not something along the lines of, I did not envision this. He realizes that it's bad. Obviously. Everybody realizes that it's bad. So what is the fix? That's why we asked him last Thursday, what are you doing to fix it? And he said, I'm not going to get into details right now, but we're in a lot better position this year than we were last year. And I do think a lot of that goes back to, and people are going to roll their eyes, but I think it's true. You have Alex Klein in place who knows what he's doing. He's done this at an NBA level. Now he comes down to the college level, and he's in charge of, helping to put the roster together. And while Adrian Autry is coaching this team and finishing out the year, he should be primed as soon as the portal opens to jump in and to get who they need to get. And they need dollars, obviously, to do that. The school has said that, we're going to commit the full amount of dollars, going to give them the resources. Now go in and identify the talent, get the talent, and turn this thing around. And that's what they're going to try to do.
CBW says, how did Autry think Lampkin could play up-tempo? He gets up and down the court fine now. That's not his defensive problem. He doesn't rotate. He can't guard the high pick and roll.
Yeah.
Getting up and down the court isn't the problem. Early on it was because his back was hurt.
Sure.
He's fine now.
Yeah. I think you're seeing the results. I mean, he's been very good lately. It's unfortunate. This season got away from them, in a hurry. And it's, you're at a point now where this game tomorrow is for a spot in the ACC tournament, essentially. Like, you lose this game now, alarm bells go off.
Yeah, and there's also a point if you're at Syracuse University where you have to blow it up. But you also have to look at when is the best time to blow it up if you have to. All right, can Syracuse University afford to lose Sadiq White, J.J. Starling if he's coming back, or Freeman, or Anthony's son? Can they afford to lose that?
Can they afford to pay whatever the buyout is? Can they afford to bring in the coach that they need?
I'm just saying, if you have to blow it up, can you afford to do that this year? I would say no. The other thing is that people don't understand is they hired a GM to fix this. And they're not going to make a change before the guy who spent all the time to try and figure out the player evaluations, and then bring a new guy in and give him 2 weeks to freaking figure it out.
Correct. Yeah, it's not happening this year, Paulie. I mean, I think you and I are steadfast in saying that, and I think that's just the way it is. I think the dollars and cents of it, I think for a lot of reasons, I don't think he's going anywhere, and I think they get next year to fix it. And as Atan said last week, and I think he is 100% spot on. If this is what we're still talking about at this time next year, or this is, some semblance of what it looks like at this time next year, then that's the time to have that conversation. I think now I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the school is going to pull the trigger.
No. And there's just this weird misconception. Like I said yesterday, who would want to come coach here if you fire a coach without giving him the NIL? And then if you don't have the NIL, who would come coach here? There's this thought from Syracuse fans that Jay Wright or Rick Pitino, like they can afford those guys. Or, the dude from
Nate Oates from Alabama.
Yeah. Now, probably not. No, but when he was at Buffalo, you might have.
Yeah.
But Jim Boeheim was probably the best bargain in coaching history.
Hometown discount?
Yeah. It's those guys aren't coming here. You're not getting that name of a coach unless they come here for cheap. And then they're not coming here if they don't have the NIL. You'll probably end up getting a coach who's either coached at a mid-major or an assistant.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why Fran Brown worked right from the outset was he came here, he had a plan, and he said, okay, I need this in order to operate from an NIL perspective. They figured out a way to get him X number, and he went out and used it to the best of his ability, and he made a splash in year one.
Paulie from Philly's Most Wanted. Yes, you can win. You can lose those high school kids. Pitino is on the record saying you can't win. Rick Pitino had $1 million to pay his point guard. Like, do you guys not realize that? If he had Jaquan Carlos, he's the,
Correct. Right.
he's got a higher budget. He's not coming here next year if Syracuse doesn't have $1 million for a point guard and $700,000 for their shooting guard. And you guys don't get it. That's how you win now. That's how coaches win with their payroll.
The halftime speech that Pitino's getting all this credit for. Again, my guess is and this is not a shot at Jaquan Carlos, but my guess is that does not work if Jaquan Carlos, if those were his players, right?
Yes.
I mean, you need players to win games. Yeah, it was a great speech. Yes, he's a very good coach, but you need players ultimately to win games. And to that point, it costs money now.
Yeah, Syracuse is probably going to have to get a couple of very good high school players and then build around them every year.
Yeah, right. All right, let's take a time out. We're going to get to our first guest. We've got Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse. He will join us on the other side. We've got Ric Beardsley, the 4-time All-American, coming up at 1 o'clock. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Water Sales and Service, Wright Roofing, and Sweet On.
I can't comment on that article or story he's saying without reading it. All right. Let me look this up now.
What were you looking for?
I don't know. Apparently, Sam Holland is saying.
Sam Holland is saying what?
I don't know. Something about NIL. I haven't seen it. That's what I'm saying to them. I can't comment on it.
I think he's been tweeting, right?
Apparently. The problem is like,
basically just did like an NIL Q&A on his Twitter.
so what did he say?
A lot of things. There were a lot of Q's. And then the A's followed. What is the direct comment you are referencing, referred to?
About the guy who runs the NIL getting paid.
Yeah, there's an administrative fee. There's a 19%.
Oh, yeah, keep going down. Keep going down. Oh, wait, go back up. There it is. The Santa.
498 is managed by SANIL, who was just bought by Blueprint Sports. I believe they take a 19% management fee on all funds that go into the collective.
I think the day refers to Blueprint Sports.
I believe also isn't exactly.
There is
strong.
There is something that it's not. I know for a fact it's not 100% of your money.
Yeah, well, you can't have people run it without paying them.
Right, but I think that the idea being that they're taking this particular collective takes more than
Most.
like the SU football NIL, for instance.
Well, yeah, that's directly in house.
Right.
Well, that's what he was saying, because he mentions here that...
Like, if you open an NIL collective, you can't do it without getting paid for it because you've got to survive. You can't just get the money and give 100%.
No, well, that's why he suggested...
Well, the athletes who care,
thinks,
that's kind of what they do, right?
Well, that's a tax. Yeah, that's a nonprofit. So you got to find the one you want to give to.
Right. It just seems like your money goes further if you
Give it directly to the universities.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that was his point, was that there's 3 collectives, there should be one streamlined that everybody uses. What do you think? That's actually a good question by D Cirqua 3. Do you think he makes? I think I would not be surprised if there was a change on the staff. How about you?
I don't know if there'll be a change, maybe an addition.
I don't think they're going to just run it back the way that it is right now.
Some eye candy for the simpletons. Be like, hey, we did this.
Yeah.
Remember they fired this? They would just rotate the same assistant coaches into different positions in college. When Coach P was the coach to shut everybody up. I don't know. Somebody said we should bring in Leonard Hamilton to be an assistant coach, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But if he was that loyal to the Orange, he would just still donate. Like, if he wanted to do good for the players, I would like to have him on now because I'd like to ask him that. If you really want to help these kids and players, why aren't you donating? Leonard Hamilton isn't coming to be an assistant coach. He's 150. He's retiring. He's sick of this. Yeah, but the NIL doesn't go to the university. It goes to the kids. Right?
Wait, kill the mics for 1 second.
You know this song, Steve?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Of course I do.
10, 11, 12.
I mean, we're about the same age. We're going to know all these, aren't we?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Do you know what 12 would be if Syracuse beats? That would be the number, right? Wouldn't that put Syracuse at 12 wins if they beat NC State?
Good timing with that, by the way.
Thank
Hit
you.
the post, as they
All
say.
right, so we had Pat on, the caller, the GOAT, guy who dubbed himself the greatest caller of all time, right? And he said, why don't you get Jackson from Locked On Syracuse on? Okay.
All right.
We'll have him on again. Never have him on.
Jackson Holzer joining us now. Jackson, what's up? Good to hear from you. How are things?
How are we doing, guys? And I promise I don't bite.
All right. Well, yeah, it's to each his own.
All right. So I'm sure you saw yesterday, the Mike Waters released that article about NIL. And as it pertains to Syracuse, it kind of took us through last year's offseason, leading up to, year number 2 for him as the head coach. I'm sure you read it. What are your thoughts? What are your reactions to said article?
I had a lot of reactions. I want to start off talking about Kadari Richmond. Does that sound good with you all?
Mm-hmm. We were just talking about it. Go ahead.
Right. So he was offered $700,000 at the very end of the offseason, according to this article. I don't understand how they just had all that money just lying around, unless it's to your point, which is there was someone who was willing to donate that only for Kadari Richmond.
Yeah, I would assume that would be the case, because the donor probably doesn't watch tape of smaller schools, and he knew who Kadari was.
And Kadari had a relationship with the university already, and maybe had a relationship with the donor.
I think what the university needs to do is they need to start pitching these players better, because you can get really good players from mid-major schools. That's one thing. That's a narrative they want to attack or debunk right now, that you shouldn't go after mid-major players. There are so many mid-major players around the country that enter the portal and end up being phenomenal at their new schools. I mean, one example I can bring up to you right now is the 2 centers over at Michigan. Danny Wolf, Vladislav Golden are both terrific players over there. Chaz Lanier is one of the best players in the country. He came from Immortal UNF. So if you have this money that is available, you have to be able to also convince these donors that, hey, we might not be able to get Kadari Richmond for $700,000. That's not even going to be close to enough. But we can get these other guys from mid-major schools that maybe you've never heard of, but we promise you they are good.
Yeah, and I think that's what a GM will do. That's the GM's job, is to allow them to prove that we can get these guys, and this is what we got on them, right?
Right. I also think that Eddie Lampkin, we learned in the article, is actually pretty good value.
Yeah.
He's making roughly $850,000 according to this report, which is not actually that bad considering the center market, which leads me to my next point about how maybe Syracuse should attack next offseason. You guys can feel free to agree or disagree on this. What if Syracuse basketball, who's already going to be on a tight budget anyway, and they should have more resources regardless because they're going on that Vegas tournament, what if they just don't really get a center in the portal next year? Because they're all if Eddie Lampkin is decent value at $850,000, I think that goes to also show you how overinflated the center market is. The fact that Frank Anselm is worth more money than J.J. Starling, I mean, come on, what are we doing here with the centers?
Yeah, well, the Louisville's got the money to just throw around, like, because you can then be like, well, our third string center is going to be $400,000 from Georgia. Like Syracuse probably would have been in on Anselm, I'm guessing, but he's not a $400,000 value.
Yeah,
to everybody but Louisville.
Frank Anselm stinks. Frank Anselm hasn't been good no matter where he has been. Louisville, I mean, I get that they have a war chest of money. The article said about $4.5 million, but you don't even. I don't get. I would offer him like $25,000 to ride the bench. You're paying him $300,000 for no reason. That's lighting money on fire. If you're telling me that that's what the market for centers is, even for a lower end guy like Frank Anselm, I don't know if we should be spending all of our NIL resources on a center and instead maybe load up on guards and wings.
Well,
People might find that controversial, but
no, I agree with you.
Such a tight budget.
I had this discussion with Devo and Atan the other day that I think the money should have gone towards a guard because the center position's kind of much different in the game now. But they still need a center next year.
Yeah, and I do think, Jackson, I understand your point. I think the top priority in the offseason is a point guard, a dynamic point guard who could shoot, who could get by his guy, who could defend. I know everybody's looking for those guys, but I think you need to put a lot of your NIL resources into getting that guy because we see how much they miss a guy like that. I also think, and I understand your point about no center, but I think we also see that this team desperately lacks rim protection, and it has been a major problem. And so I think they need someone, and I'm not saying you have to spend $850,000 for that, but I think they need someone who can be a defensive presence in the lane because they don't have that right now.
Anybody that will play defense at any position.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, defense is obviously a major issue with this team. But I do think that, they need somebody who can defend the pick and roll and who can, block a shot here and there if, the guards get beaten off the dribble. So, I do think both things are important. I think the point guard position is way more important, but I don't think they can completely ignore the fact that right now they're severely lacking with rim protection.
Here's the thing. Here's where I'm at with the center spot. And I agree with you on point guard being a top priority because they need one. With the center spot, either pay for the top end, the guys who are going to be all conference caliber next year, or simply don't pay them because Syracuse is on such a tight budget. You can't be spent. There is no center out there worth middle of the road money. You're either worth absolutely nothing or you are worth more than anyone in college basketball. So that's why I'm suggesting maybe just load up on guards and wings. Yeah, you might lack in rim protection, which last year they did, but guess what? They won 20 games last year without a center. So maybe that could be the formula going forward for Syracuse basketball. But I think also a lot of people wanted me on this call to talk about coaching, so we can talk about that right now.
Just real quick to wrap up that conversation, you said last year they won 20 games without a true center, but the guy who was playing center, Malik Brown, was actually a really good defender, right? And right now they don't have that.
A forward. He's a forward.
Understood, but my point is they need some. You can't just not have someone manning the middle. That person has to be a good defender. So whether it's a power forward or a big guy, you need someone to play defense. And I think we're all seeing with this team that they don't play defense in a lot of cases. So that's all I'm saying about the center position. I don't know that you can spend for the top guy, and I think you agree on that. I think that's your point, Jackson, is that you can't go out and get the top of the line center because you're going to blow your entire NIL budget on that. So, use it other places. I agree with that point, but I do think you need somebody in the center to play some defense. All right, moving on to the coaching situation. Paulie and I look at this and, the whole fire red thing, I think we look at it as what is the point of talking about this because it's not going to happen right now. I think all the stars, read between the lines, everything is setting up for he's getting next year, and then, this conversation can be had at the end of next year. What is your take on, I guess, his job status?
I wouldn't give him another year. I do not think he is some coaching wizard, that's for starters. I mean, I think his offense is incredibly stale. I think that the team in 2 years has not played defense. Even having Malik Brown last year, they still didn't play defense. They were the third worst team in the ACC. And also, look, here's the deal. A lot of people are going to say, well, the recruiting class he's got bringing in, right? Kyan Anthony, Sadiq White, even to a lesser extent, Luke Fennell and Aaron Womack. You don't want to lose those guys, and I agree. I don't want to lose them either. What happens? Can we agree on this, right? Let's say they give Adrian Autry a third year. Is it tournament or bust for him?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what if we're in this similar situation next year? Maybe they're doing better, right? Maybe they're 16-11, but they're probably not going to make the NCAA tournament. But they got Jordan Smith and Alex Constanza coming in the class of 2026. Both are five-star players. Are you then going to switch your expectation and say, let's give Adrian Autry a year 4 because he's got another good recruiting class coming in?
No,
or are you going to pull the plug?
No, there comes a time where you have to blow it up.
I think we saw it with Dino, right? They put an expectation on it. They said, all right, go win 7 again, and that's the benchmark. And he came up short, and they said, okay, sorry, you're done.
Even with Dino, I don't think Dino is a fair comparison because Dino did not have quite the leverage that Autry has because Dino couldn't recruit. There was nothing that Syracuse was missing out on by firing Dino Babers. If you fire Adrian Autry and he's got Alex Constanza and Jordan Smith coming in, well, you might lose those recruits. At some point, you might lose recruits. That's my counter to people who say you need to give him another year because of the recruits coming in. I would rather just pull the plug now and start from scratch.
You say they didn't have leverage with Dino. I mean, they did make back-to-back bowl games for the first time in a really long time. That's his leverage. Is look at where this program was when I got here, and it's better now than it was when I arrived. And, they said, well, this is the benchmark. And he didn't hit the benchmark, and they said, you got to go.
And he did have LaQuinn Allen, Aronde Getz, and Marlo Wax on the team that won 10 this year.
And they were able to retain those guys, and we all know how it played out, and it played out well, and it worked out well, for Syracuse and for Fran Brown and for this fan base. So I don't know, Jackson. I mean, I look at it as, next year there will be, my guess is, I think the finances are in such a way that he's not going anywhere. And, to the point of they hired a GM and you look at the injuries this year, I think there are a lot of reasons they can point to and they can justify one more year. But I think that going into that year, there's going to be a clear expectation that this is what you got to do. And if you don't, then we're going to have to move on. And, that's my opinion, and I understand you're saying do it now. I just don't think they're going to do it now.
I agree on that last part. I don't think they're going to do it now, but I think they would have every justification in the world to do it now. Think of it this way also. I get that they do not have the most resources in the world. They are also 146 in the net rankings. 146. Do you want to know what schools are ahead of them in the net rankings?
Yeah, it's not pretty. Yeah.
It's Furman, DePaul, New Mexico State, James Madison that employs Justin Taylor for some reason. I don't know why, but they do. Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, UC Riverside, Belmont, UTEP, UIC, ETSU. Davidson is ahead of Syracuse. I guess they still have Steph Curry. Louisiana Tech, Kent State. You want me to keep going?
We all know what this year is.
I guess what's your point? We know it's not good.
Is that if you had a better coach, I guarantee you they are better.
With this roster and injuries, you guarantee everything that's happened this year would be better.
If Will Wade was the head coach of Syracuse basketball right now, they would be 16-11, not 11-16.
With this roster and injuries.
With this roster and these injuries. They weren't good even with everyone healthy.
I know you say that, and I know that's convenient for everybody to keep bringing up. They weren't good when they were healthy. Again, I mean, JJ got hurt, November or December 1st, November 30th. It was something like that. And I realized that they didn't get off to a fast start. But at that point in time, they had lost to Texas and Texas Tech. And they had some close calls, obviously, against, the Youngstown States of the world. And I understand that. But I do think that losing your best player for 7 games and then losing your second best player for the rest of the season, that has to be factored in to some degree, correct?
I would factor that in and maybe give him like 1 or 2 more wins if everyone was healthy, all things considered. I mean, if you go down the line, how many games do they realistically flip?
I think it absolutely the Notre Dame game, absolutely Georgetown. I think Wake Forest.
The Notre Dame game at the beginning of the year?
Yeah. First time around, yes.
Well, they didn't have Marcus Burton. Why are we backing
Well, then we probably win even more.
Exactly.
Without him.
If JJ played in that game.
They had Marcus. We're going to sit here and try to give the injury excuse for not having JJ Sterling against
They
Notre
beat
Dame
him with
that
Marcus.
first time.
They beat him with Marcus Burton.
They did.
JJ.
And you just said which games do they flip?
The field was even in that first game that they
That's
played
not what you
against
said.
each other.
Yeah,
So
Jackson,
that isn't what
That's
you
not
said.
what you said. You said if JJ's healthy, which games do it flip? Does it flip? It absolutely.
Yeah, if JJ's healthy, but then you're telling me that game, and what I'm trying to tell you is that they also had a significant injury.
I understand.
Yeah, and then when they both were healthy, they won.
And Syracuse won the game. Yes,
because they had their better player back.
You asked a question to me. I'm giving you the answer. I think they beat Notre Dame the first time around. I think they beat Georgetown. I think they probably beat Wake Forest. I mean, that game was close. It was a home game. It was right up till the end. I think those three get flipped, and then you don't know from there because there is momentum.
I have one last question for you. So you lose Freeman, you lose JJ, you lose Chris Bell, and Sadiq White and Anthony. Who's your next coach, and how many games does he win?
Well, I think my number one. Well, there's those top of the market guys who you just call and you let them say no. Jay Wright, for example, you just let him say no, right? I think we can all agree. You do your due diligence. You let him say no. Goodbye. All right, adios. The real guy that you would target is Will Wade from McNeese State. He's won everywhere he's been, and you know that he's not going to stay at McNeese State forever. I think it's a realistic coaching option. And I believe that even if the entire roster is completely gutted next year and you have to start from scratch, he can build a team that is capable of competing for an NCAA tournament spot in year one. And I would be shocked if by year two they are not an NCAA tournament team if Will Wade is the head coach.
So Will Wade, who was in trouble for NCAA violations and a corruption, part of that corruption investigation in the sport, that Will Wade, you think Syracuse is going to hire him?
I don't know if they will, but they probably should.
All right. Maybe it's good that there's no rules now, but I don't know. I don't know that they're going the Will Wade route. But all right, Jackson, we do have to run. Appreciate you.
Let's take we got a special caller on the line.
We do.
Now. Yeah.
Who we got?
Lazar Sims wants to call in and talk about the current situation.
What's up? How are you?
What's going on, fellas?
How you doing?
I'm good. Listening to y'all conversation way out the way.
So the floor is yours. What do you want to talk about?
I'm just listening to the gentleman in front of me. Like, he's throwing names out. And yeah, Jay Wright and these guys. Well, Jay Wright would be great. And Patino would be great. But you got to know where you're at, too. Syracuse is not spending that money.
Yeah.
And to not give Adrian 2 to 4 years to see what he can do. No coach is coming into any situation. Jay Wright, Calhoun, anybody else has come in a situation and done great off the door. And now you're carrying this with the NIL, with the kids transferring, able to leave, whether if they're playing or if they're not playing, they just see something they like and they want to go to the shiny object. Like, that's tough. So to not give Adrian that leeway and that credit that what he's working with and the monster that he's working with the NIL and the transfer portal, like, come on.
Z, obviously, you played for the program. You grew up here and went to Henniger and played at SU, and you've been here a long time, and you've been invested with Syracuse basketball, and I'm sure you still watch them, game in and game out. For those who say, it's clear Adrian Autry can't coach. What is your response to? Because that is a comment we get a lot on this show. People, call in, they say that or comment on that in our chat. What is your response to that?
I'll say you got other coaches that they're naming that they claim is doing a good job, but do they got just better talent? And not to say we don't have good talent. If you can go get a higher gun, a Kevin Durant, or you know what I'm saying, or for college, these top guys, because you can throw more money at them, does that mean you're a great coach? Are you doing a great job, or you just got talent?
Yeah.
So to say that he can't coach and he's not invested in it, or what they're saying, the grass is green over here, we should go get this guy. Like, I just heard him name the gentleman, the other coach who's in the recruiting scandal on his own. Like, Syracuse is not bringing that in. Like, we do pride ourselves on certain integrities.
Sure.
So to look at that and say Adrian's not doing a great job because this guy is doing a good job somewhere that's not a Syracuse level, you got to remember that too, the level.
All right, Z. What do you make of you? You mentioned the talent part of it. What can Syracuse do to get there? And do you think Syracuse is capable of competing in the NIL market?
I don't think with Syracuse money mentality, the stinginess of them of they want to get money, but they don't put money out with the NIL. I don't think we can compete. You got rid of one of your big money donors with this situation with Mr. Wiseman. So that kind of puts you behind the eight ball with that, because again, it's not about talent right now or getting talented, or like when I was coming in and the Billy Owens and the Derricks and the John Walls, we wanted to play in the Dome. You wanted to play in the Big East on TV. We were on TV 3-4 times a week, or 3-4 times. Within the month, we was on TV maybe 8 times that month. Like, that's a big draw. Now that's not a draw. It's the money's the draw. And if the university's not going to open their wallet, then how can you compete? You can say he's not doing a great job as coaching, but you're not opening the cabinet for him. So you can't say that if you're not going to give him the opportunity in the cabinet to go mix and match his recipe.
Z, we're up against it time-wise here, but any final thoughts? Anything else you wanted to add before we hit our next commercial?
They need a point guard. JJ's doing a great job, filling in, being a combo guard, but they need a point guard. Like, they can say what they want. We can get this player, that player. If you don't have a point guard to run your ship, it's tough.
Got any eligibility left?
You need a solid point guard.
Yeah, they need a point guard.
Since I've been home, to be honest, I go to stores in the mall.
You'd command top dollar too. I mean, you'd be in demand, no doubt about it.
Oh man, with this era, with what's going on, yeah, definitely. And it wasn't even, to me, that's the difference. The love for me was trying to be the best and getting the Big East championship, or for them the ACC championship, or getting to the tournament. Right now, for them, how can you tell a kid to go work hard and he's getting $400,000?
See, let me ask you a question, honest question. If you were playing in the NIL days, would you have sat the years you sat at Syracuse? Or you think you would have gone somewhere else?
To be honest question, my first 2 years I probably would have left. Because my first year, I remember I redshirted, and it wasn't for playing wise. I got sick going in right before the season started. In the second year, he wasn't playing me, so which was my first year of being a redshirt freshman. He wasn't playing me. So for me, and actually, I actually my second year, and he wouldn't let me leave. So he told me no. He sat, my brother sat with him, like, you're not playing him. You saying this and that, and we would like to go. And everybody in the country, when we played him, was like, yo, if you was here, you could play. Like Calhoun, Georgetown, all of them would play against us and walk by the bench and say, hey, if you was with me, you'd be playing right now. So it was frustrating for me. So I would have probably left my first 2 years. Junior and senior year, no, I would have stayed.
All right. Well, it worked out pretty well. Glad you didn't end up in a Georgetown uniform or UConn uniform and got to play in a national title game to boot. Listen, Z, it was great catching up with you. Hope all is well with you and your family. And thanks so much for coming on. And be well, and we'll talk to you anytime you want to call. Open invitation.
All right, same with you guys.
All right, Lazar Sims joining us here on the show. Unprompted. Love hearing from Z. We'll take a time out here. Back after this on ESPN Radio. Yeah, dilemma cues. I actually taught Jackson in my class. I've known him for a couple years now.
Well, if that's where Pat gets his info from, it explains a lot. Sorry.
What did you say?
I said if that's where Pat gets his info from, it explains a lot.
Well, I didn't teach him in sports talk radio, so I don't take credit for that.
Him and Pat should do a podcast together. I would listen to that. Why do you say I don't bite? Like, were we scared of him?
I don't know.
It's like, okay.
Like, get over yourself.
Yeah. I don't care if you bite. Bite me. You can bite me.
Yeah, right.
Weird thing to say about a young person in the industry. Shame on you. What'd I say? That if Pat gets your info from him? He ain't wrong. Okay, well, that's your opinion.
Dilemma Cuse, do you think Will Wade is a viable option for Syracuse? Like, do you think Syracuse would hire Will Wade given his past? And you called yesterday, and I really enjoyed your phone call. You obviously know your stuff. Do you think Syracuse would hire Will Wade? Like, is that a reasonable option? Well, that's good news about
Are
Shakir.
you mad that I said something about someone in the industry while just bitching that somebody should be fired from their job? That's funny to me. I can't say negative things. When I say negative things, shame on me.
Yeah, Mike, I'm with you. I don't think they even consider it. But Philly's Most Wanted, you know who does care about it? The chancellor, right? Like, I'm with Mike McCall. Like, I don't think there's any way they even consider that.
He had a car accident, and yes, he probably wouldn't have gotten away with it now. And he was also very cheap. Killed somebody. What a stupid way to word that.
Are we just doing cavalcade car?
Gino Thorpe for Boeheim's Army?
Are we...
Just a quick break.
Yeah, okay.
Love trash. Anything
You know, there's some people that listen to the show, Steve, that think this is how I feel about Syracuse basketball. I love trash.
Yes, I love trash.
No, I don't. I don't enjoy this at all. I want Syracuse to win. I want Coach Autry to succeed. If he doesn't, I want the next coach to succeed. I don't love trash. And this has been trash.
I thought I was going to enjoy Sesame Street Day more than I am.
Damn, man, this grouch is grouchy. Let's take a quick time out.
Yeah, we got to get back on time. Went very long with that
Cavalcade of
last
Cards is coming. CavalcadeofCards.com.
Not at the Horticulture Building.
No, Center of Progress.
Yes. All right. We'll take a time out. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next on ESPN Radio.
A is for anger. You're right, Brian. Ooh, Coach K. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah, he's next. Steve would be like, don't ruin your legacy. If Coach K came here. Yeah, we're doing all Sesame Street bangers today. Got to call Phil and let him say no? Do your due diligence. I like it. Has anyone called Pop? I don't know. Hey, Jay Wright. Click. I would love for Jay Wright to come here. I would, like I've said that before they hired Autry. You got to make that call, but clearly the people that maybe they did make that call.
What?
To Jay Wright before Autry. I want the ghost of John Wooden. He cheated too, though. Bill Parcells. Jim Calhoun. Mike Tomlin. This is great. Steve Alford. Phil Jackson just sitting there smoking some weed, playing his guitar, running the triangle. Gino Army Emma. That's a good one. Mike P for coach. You want Mike, our producer, to coach? Oh, speaking of which, I am making a pitch next segment. You just shut up and listen. Yeah. You just shut up and it'll give me more credibility to the listeners if I can pull this off. Who the hell's calling? Yeah, Melo's going to coach. He just took a job at NBC as being a TV analyst, but he'll come coach Syracuse. Shaq, that'd be a good one.
I have an old person question. Like I don't know the answer to this. So I have a meeting on Microsoft Teams. Okay. I don't have the Microsoft Teams app on my laptop. Do I need it in order to join? Somebody else sent me the link.
It should open up in your web.
Okay.
But if it does, you might need to download it.
Okay. Because I have it on my computer at work. I could take it there, but I prefer to
Do you
take
have it on your phone?
No.
It's 2025. Click the link and it'll work. You'll be fine. I have Teams on my computer if you need it.
All right, Kevin. No, thank you. I can take it at my desk if I want, but I want to take it in the conference room on my laptop.
This hour of Orange Nation is brought to you by William Matar. Hurt in a car? Call William Matar. 444-4444. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on CuseSportsTalk.com.
Cookie starts with C. Let's think of other things that starts with C. Who cares about other things? C is for cookie. That's good enough for me. C is for cookie.
I had so much fun finding these songs.
I bet you did.
Like it was so relaxing.
Oh, cookie starts with C.
Just you need that. That's your attitude. That's the attitude you need. Like Syracuse losing in basketball has zero effect on your life. Just go have a cookie.
Is it having zero effect on your life right now?
No, it is affecting my life and my well-being. That hearing a song from my childhood just made me so happy this morning. Like I was like, C is for cookie.
Well, that's how we ended the show yesterday. I said we need a little bit of joy in our lives. So I'm glad it brought you joy.
L is for losing. Paulie.
T is for Tony. Tony in Syracuse. Up next on the show. Hey, Tony.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're doing all right. How are you?
Good. Survive. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding
A
us.
lot of week left.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. I was just thinking, the other thing you got to think about is the university fully invested in the athletic department. And what I mean by that is they paid Fran Brown. He came in with a plan. Jeff Nixon just got an extension, so that's a good sign. But they also lost Rob Douglas, the wide receiver coach, to Oregon. So that had to be a money thing, too. So unless they can come up and be fully invested with all these people calling and wanting this, like Lazarus said, you can have whoever you want out there, but the school's not going to pay. So it's just you got to pick and choose, what you're going to watch and what you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, Tony, and I think, we're going to find out just how serious Syracuse University is as things move forward here, right? As the rules change, as the schools are allowed to, directly, give to student athletes. And I think we're going to see how serious the university is about winning in football and basketball. And you're right. The fact that they paid Jeff Nixon, that's a good sign. Are they going to do that with men's basketball? Are they going to do that across the board? We'll see. And as I said, Paulie, I think if there's ever a time to do it for basketball, the time is now to see if you have the resources and the resources get those players. What does it look like next year?
All in.
Yep.
As they would say in poker.
I think so.
Steve, did you know the TBT's coming back to Syracuse?
I mentioned it yesterday. I don't know if you were listening, but yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so yes.
I was just trying to change the topic.
Okay.
Play along with me a little bit.
Elijah Hughes is already committed.
Hear me out on this.
Okay.
I am offering my skills as an assistant coach to TBT's, Boeheim's Army. I would like to be an assistant coach on the team.
Is this a joke?
No, I'm being serious. Maybe if we could get Jim Boeheim to come out of retirement and coach the team, I could be an assistant for him. He won't listen. He doesn't listen to anybody. I just sit there and smile. But I know his plays, too. I can be like, run the 3 play. Like that one. Or open and circles. I know all those plays. I know all his plays. I can be like, dude, come on. Run open. We got to get an isolation for Elijah.
And he likes you now. It took him a while, but he likes you now.
So what do you guys think? I think I should be able to do that.
And you've been wanting to talk to Adam Weitzman, and now he's back with the team as well.
Yes,
so
yes.
You could have a conversation with him, just like on the team bus over to the SRC Arena.
Yeah, I think I should be allowed to be a coach. I wear a suit and tie.
Next time we have Coach Boeheim on, ask him. There's a lot of time between now and July to convince him of
But
this.
I got to be at practices and stuff.
Well, yeah, they don't practice until a week before the game.
And then everybody would be like, what do you know about basketball? I'll be like, I coached the Boeheim's Army. I don't know if you know that or not. I'd be part of Coach Boeheim's coaching tree if he was the coach.
There you go.
He'd have Patino, Sibilia, Audrey.
Stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I know what I'm doing. I like it. Next time he's on, let's ask him.
Yes, please. Very cheap.
In fact, the phone's ringing right now. I wonder if this is him.
It could be Coach Boeheim right now calling in saying no.
All right, we do have to get to Ric Beardsley here on the other side as we kick off the second hour. I'm trying to stall to see if this is Coach Boeheim calling in at the moment, but
I'm sure it's not.
He might be driving around, and they drove off the road. That's a stupid idea.
I've worked Boeheim's camp before as a coach.
As a coach?
Yeah, for kids. I wasn't coaching college kids.
What were you doing?
Coaching,
doing what?
Keep your eye on the rim. Putting my team
fundamentals.
In. Yeah, dribble. You each had your own station.
Oh, okay. You were a dribbling station.
Yeah, and then one day you're the rebounding station.
Yeah, right. I know how camps work. I was just wondering what you did.
7-year-olds don't know that.
How did you get involved?
They were short-staffed, and I did it for years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Anybody can coach if you have the little manual in front of you.
I've been to many camps before. I know how it works. I was just wondering how you got picked to
put the
host your own station.
The goggles on them. And then
the dribbling goggles,
and they run around the cones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All All right, it's not Coach Boeheim. So we're going to take a break. We're going to bring out Ric Beardsley on the other side. We're back after this.
We need to stop. That would be me. Get one damn stop. What the hell's wrong with you?
Go to commercial.
No, the kids have better takes than you guys. Thank you. The first time I ever worked Camp Boeheim saw me, he goes, Jesus, they'll hire anybody, right?
Sounds about right.
Buddy and Jimmy were little kids back then, and nobody wanted to draft them because they didn't want Boeheim looking over their shoulder, you know. Imagine them being on TV and they'll be like, Boeheim's Army coached by blah, 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 whoever it is, and then Paulie Sibilia. Like, they would show me just standing in the huddle with them. Paulie gets 0.0001% of the winnings. All the players just throw pennies at me if they win. I don't know if that's true, but if he is. Yeah, I remember Frank Howard. The inability to play D, his offense is fine. Like, everybody says that offense has not been the problem this year. Yeah, that was pretty smooth by Frank Howard.
If you have a passion for turning outdoor spaces into havens of relaxation, apply today. Liverpool Pool and Spa wants you on our team. Competitive wages, future training opportunities for career growth, and a supportive work culture await.
Apply today in person or online at liverpoolpoolandspa.com/careers. And remember, don't just dream it, live it.
We see no haggle car buying in your future at Matthews Kia of Clay, where we want you in the driver's seat when choosing your Kia.
Short shorts and a suit top, that would be funny. If I wore like nut huggers and a suit top. Steve, what do you think? Are you offended by the term nut huggers?
No.
State-of-the-art facility at Matthews in Clay on Route 31 or visit MatthewsKiaofClay.com. 36 months, 10,000 miles per year. Zero due at signing. First payment, tax and fees included. Sorrento, $2,320 Kia lease cash.
Just my old nuggets tucked in. I'm getting old, Steve. They ain't as tight as they used to be, if you know what I mean. Ooh, if I dress like Belichick on the sideline, that'd be fun. Do you know N is for nuts, Steve? Oh, If I wore like biker shorts, like an 80s hip hop video, that'd be cool.
Well, now, who are the people in your neighborhood?
It's Sesame Street, Steve. This isn't great audio here.
Say, who are the people in your neighborhood? The people.
Do you know the people in your neighborhood, Steve? I don't talk to my
As
neighbors.
long as you look like the grocer, why don't you?
Yeah, I know my neighbors.
All right.
I don't know any of them. I do know one because they listen to the K-Rock morning show on one side. The rest of the neighborhood, I don't know.
No.
I waved to them, but I don't know.
All right, let's bring on the 4-time All-American Ric Beardsley. How do you want to do this at the end?
We'll do it at the end.
At the end.
Everybody guess now what Ric Beardsley had for lunch in our chat at QSportsTalk.com. If you guess correctly, you're going to the NC State game. Bubblicious ACC tournament game.
Yes, it is. All right, so we will ask Rick at the very end of this interview, and he will reveal what he had for lunch. All right, Rick, we're going to start by talking some lacrosse, obviously. And losing to Maryland was one thing. Top 10 opponent on the road, bad weather. I think there are reasons why they lost that game. What do you make of what you saw Saturday against Harvard?
Well, I've thought about it a lot since Jordan hit me up. And Steve, we've always talked about, remember when Mooney used to tell me I was always being too mean, right? So I'll try to be as blunt but as nice as I can for those that are listening, probably going to be disappointed. But no, I mean, what I saw was, a team that got up 5-0 and then just kind of sat back a little bit. And then, you can't, whatever you want to say, you can, but Harvard is a very good team. They were well coached. They made they came with a great game plan. There was no halftime adjustments and, done on the other side. And, the outcome wasn't good. It just seemed like they wouldn't go away. But everybody keeps pointing to the fact that, Harvard's bad, and those they're not. We can say whatever. They're a good team, and should Syracuse have lost to that to Harvard? No, it's a horrid loss. Let's speak the truth between us, right? For Syracuse fans, that's a bad loss, right? For everybody else in the world that seems to hate on Syracuse, it's a great loss, right? They want to now, just kick Syracuse while it's down. And I do think that it's a little bit early to press the panic button. But again, I mean, I've been on the other hand, on the other side of this, where you started out with a losing season and things turn around.
You look at the final stats, and Syracuse was 28 of 32 in faceoffs. You've been around this game a long time. Have you ever seen a team dominate the faceoff X like that and lose the game?
Nah, not much, to be frank with you, Steve. I haven't seen that, and like I said, it just seemed to me like Harvard just wanted it more. I mean, D guys were laying out. End of the game, Billy Dwan got a shot off as regulation was hitting, and it hit a D guy. Owen Hiltz on the man up when Syracuse got man up. D guy took it, soaked it, but the possession battle, it was just lack of execution. And if you look at the stats, that was the one glaring thing, as you're pointing out. But it wasn't like clears were bad. It wasn't like shots on goal were bad. It wasn't like saves were that lopsided. I think it wasn't a game of runs, obviously, but I have never in my life witnessed a college game be a loss with that much of a lopsided at that level of Division I, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Top 20 battle, both teams in the top 15, and Syracuse wins 28 of the 32 faceoffs, ends up losing the game. What about on the other end of the field, Rick, the defensive end? And Jimmy McCool got the start, to start the season. Obviously, was replaced in this one. Was struggling, especially with low shots in this game. Do you think he's still the guy moving forward? What adjustments? I guess you being a defensive guy, what adjustments would you make on that end of the field?
I mean, I was sitting in a box, actually the Galaxy Communications box with Pat Mooney, and I was sitting with Charlie Lockwood, and as well as Jamie Archer, the James Earl DeWitt head coach, who former All-American at Syracuse, those guys, and we were all teammates, and we were talking about the one thing we noticed defensively was that Syracuse slid. They didn't need to slide the matchups, I didn't think, and they slid fast and created offense. I also think, and we all said it, we weren't sure about pulling McCool. I don't know if he was really the issue, right? Whether he was making saves or not. I think he made the saves he needed to make, and he missed some saves that, they were pretty good shots. I think Syracuse's defense helped create offense by sliding so quickly, and it was vice versa on the other end, where the game plan for Harvard was they just sat back and said, hey, Syracuse, beat us man to one-on-one. We don't think you can break us down, and we're just going to pack it in and see if our goalie can make some saves. And after those first 5 shots, he made a lot of them, that Harvard goalie.
All right, looking ahead now, Syracuse hits the road, heads out west. They've got a game in Salt Lake City, Utah on Saturday against a 1-3 team, and then home for Hopkins. The way the schedule was setting up, it potentially looked like this might be a trap game, but given the fact they've lost 2 in a row, I'm sure Utah has their full and undivided attention, yes?
Yes, but Syracuse, I mean, guys, that's a long trip. It's going to be a packed stadium. Utah was ranked in the top 15, I believe, or top 20. At the beginning of the year, they stumbled by a few goals. They're very well coached. That is going to be one heck of a game, and you can't look past them. I do think that Syracuse dug themselves a little hole with this loss. That is, you now have to kind of win out a couple of things. You got to win some games that nobody was picking you to win. Especially now, and in order to get in the playoffs. But Utah's good. Guys, Utah's real good, really chaotic, plays fast. Now, I think the one thing Syracuse tried to do was play fast. I just don't think they're a run and gun team right now. I think there's some indecisions that guys are making, but Utah out there where you can, by the way, what a beautiful place. I was out there with the PLL when we were in the bubble during COVID, and you could stand on the fields and look at the 3 Mormon temples, churches. It was unbelievable. So they're going out to a beautiful place, and it'll be a hostile environment, I think. And Syracuse is going to have to bring their A game to get out with a good win.
Most beautiful places I've ever been. I remember when SU played in the NCAA tournament out there, like when as the plane was landing, you look outside and you just see the mountain, the snow-capped mountains everywhere. It is gorgeous out there. I know your personal feelings about Hopkins. We'll get into Hopkins next week when you bring it. We bring you on. But just big picture college lacrosse, Rick. I know you watch a lot of college lacrosse.
Tons.
Who stands out to you? To this point, obviously, Notre Dame. But how about the local teams? Cornell, Colgate, both off to a good start. Who's been standing out to you so far from a big picture perspective?
Well, big picture for me, it's been UNC. UNC is very talent laden. And then the Giancarlo kid that transferred in, the goalie from Princeton, was, I think, the piece of the puzzle. They had an injury to their best defenseman. That has seemed not to slow them down. I think UNC for me is the team that I've had them beating Hopkins, and I didn't have them just beating them. I had them killing them. I just think they're so talented, and they just have to be able to figure it out, and they seem to be figuring it out. Now, locally, Cornell, you can't we talk a lot about Syracuse here, but right down the street is this Central New York team in Cornell, and CJ Kirsch had 6 goals in the last game. They're ranked 3 in one poll, 2 in another. I mean, they're really good. Connor Busick is an incredible coach, young mind, really on the cutting edge of what they do offensively. And defensively, they're long, they're smart, they're strong. And then Colgate, I happened to go to a Villanova Stony Brook women's game, and Villanova came out to practice after, and I ran into Mike Corrado. He heard I was in the stadium and came out to say hi. And he was talking about how much Colgate junks it up, and meaning they don't play the ball behind, they play in chaos, and that's what they do. And Colgate will be no pushover. They'll be in the game. They'll play tough, and they're in the top 20 right now. So I think those two teams are ascending, and I think we're on the down slope. We got to level back out and ascend back up, as they would say. But yeah, I do think UNC is my pick, and I can't believe I'm saying that, guys. And you'll get me with next week with Hopkins. I love Hopkins. Stony Brook plays Hopkins Saturday, a couple days from now. So I get to watch Stony Brook women's play against Hopkins women's.
All right, Rick, what'd you have for lunch for all the marbles?
All right, so before I do this, Paulie, nobody put up what the name I put in on the VMix, like it usually puts your name underneath. I put Stephen Fonte, number 1, okay? So that I did do. Secondly, I want to give a shout out. You get listeners all over all over the world. You know that, right, guys? My buddy Rob Rochford is down on Long Island. You can't say in Long Island. He's listening right now. He loves the show because he loves Syracuse lacrosse. He's got a son that'll be recruited by Syracuse, guaranteed. He's legit, Luke, a.k.a. Steak. That is what I had for lunch, by the way.
Oh, wow.
All right. Did multiple people?
I think we have multiple stakes in the chat, so
we'll figure it out.
Give me the names. I'm going to pick them. Give me first names. I'll pick them.
Spatch and the Wheeze is one, which is a inside joke on this show.
Yeah.
I'm saying Chick-fil-A, steak right there. Hold on. Armosaurus.
That's a funny name.
Pastor Tim.
Pastor Tim said it. Pastor Tim said it first, I believe.
Yeah, Pastor Tim. All right, so we'll go Pastor Tim, Spatch and the Wheeze, and Armosaurus. You pick out of those.
I'm going to go with, obviously, Pastor Tim. You can't go against the Lord Jesus Christ himself, right? Because you'll be stricken down. But one thing I'd like to know, if you guys can see me, Paulie, I'm disappointed. I put on the Telly Savalas sunglasses. Jordan had no idea who Telly Savalas was.
I was going to ask. See, I was. You are wearing glasses, and if you're on Q Sports Talk, you can see them. I thought they were more Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm just giving you that heads up right now.
Oh my goodness! Now I have that persona. I'm doing those things and eating people at the same time.
No,
my God!
I'm just saying.
I'm going to have to post more pictures with my wife.
I would not wear those out in public. Those are very serial killer.
Well, I mean, I sit right behind you at the basketball games.
I know. I'm just saying, your last ones were better.
All right, let me try these. Hold on.
Yeah, those ones scare me a little bit. San Diego Q says those are serial killer glasses.
Well, I appreciate that, San Diego Q's. These are new readers because, of course, I went and spent the money on $500 Gucci ones, and the $3 ones work the best off Amazon.
You are very handsome in those.
You are. I like those too.
Does it bring out the roundness in my face, guys?
No, you look like a oval.
You look great. You do. And save the money on the $600 cologne that you wear.
Yeah.
And,
I won't ever. You know one thing I do. I don't. You're used to me. I spend on certain things, and that that is good cologne, and I do get lots of compliments.
Yeah, and car washes every day.
I do get car washes.
I know you do.
That was a bro move on my part. I was trying to be a bro.
He's helping you out.
I was just saying.
Yeah.
What? I'm going back to the serial killers. They're just better. I mean, they're just so much better. I mean, I do have to lose maybe 20 pounds right now. I'm just not in Stephen Fonte shape. Because a big thing, Paulie, I don't know how you stand in the presence of such an athlete every day and you sit with him, and he's a state champion. I mean, he's a bomber. He's a local national celebrity at this point, and his 3-point prowess earned him the name Infantre. So that was the big thing. So, how do you do that, Paulie?
I should have never have told you that, Rick.
It's very, very difficult to even be I have to open the door for him, and
wow,
you guys are funny.
I lay my jacket out for him to go over puddles.
Are you enjoying yourselves?
Yes.
All right.
Call those the SKs, your SK specials for your glasses, and then they won't. Then people will be like,
"What the hell? SKs? Oh, the serial killers." That's actually amazing. I actually look at this and I want to have a camera that thins me out 20 pounds and fixes my hair. Maybe I should start going to the barber instead of cutting the hair myself.
Rick, you know the people on the social media are now going to be like, Paulie let Rick go off track and didn't talk lacrosse the whole time.
I'll talk as much lacrosse as you want. I can say this: Syracuse is not. They shouldn't have to hit the panic button. I've spoken to those kids. They're all really good kids. The difference between the 90s, the 2000s, the 210s, and the 220s of guys that play at Syracuse, we're real similar people. It can be turned around quite simply with just an attitude change, just a little bit more grit, just digging down a little bit more. They have the ability. I think the one thing they're going to have to do, everybody talks about the unselfishness. I think they got to start being a little bit more selfish at times. I think also got to learn to make adjustments at halftime. Right? Everybody's calling for everybody's head right now. They're calling for Pat March's head. That's what I've seen. I don't know if it's time to chop the head off, but I think you got to make some adjustments. I think, Maryland did that, and Harvard, made some good adjustments that gave Syracuse fits. And I think, Andrew's just as good of a coach. McMinn, who's out at Utah, he's just as good as a coach as who they're ever going to go against all year. I mean, so Syracuse is in for it, but I think they'll be ready. They've straightened themselves out, and we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah, a lot of lacrosse obviously left to be played. Still February. The goal is to get to the end of May and still be playing. Rick, thanks so much for the time as always and the insight. Be well. We'll talk again next week leading up to Hopkins.
You're the best.
Boys,
Rick.
Thanks. Enjoy. Have a great one. I will eat something better than steak next week. I was driving from New York this morning.
Better than steak.
I know, right?
Kind of
By the way,
how does it get
it
better
was, just so you know, it's locally owned, locally raised.
We'll open up the phone lines the rest of the way. 315-437-7644. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Threw away steak. Why is that funny? Steak,
So Pastor Tim can't make it to the game, and apparently we have two pairs of tickets, so Armosaurus is going to go and Spatch and Louise.
Cool.
That's the way it sounds.
Steaks for everyone. Spatch and Louise. Don't either one of you acknowledge my existence if you see me. Don't make eye contact with me.
You said somebody came up to you, like somebody like in the...
At
like,
Wegmans.
At Wegmans.
At Wegmans, before the Coach Jack show. Came up to my face and said you would never make it.
It was like fired up? Like,
no.
Just
be like you just wouldn't last in New York City. If I was in New York City, I'd be making a lot more money. My tolerance would be
What was the point of the comment?
Just to be an asshole.
Yeah, right.
I like it. I like it. Someone.
Yeah, steak is not something you can eat as you're driving, so he must have like stopped somewhere.
He probably ate it as soon as he got home. Beardsley looks like a suspect. Don't make eye contact with me ever, any of you. Thank you.
Cavalcade cars, not at the horticulture building.
I will sign autographs, but you can't make eye contact with me. I know, because he did say, I'm going to get what I have coming to me. Oh, if it was getting fired, I would take that in a second today. Oh, Lord. Yes, Pat said that to me, and then tried to make it sound like it was karma. Karma was going to get me because the Lord was going to... I'd never confront you in person. Just on here, I'm a coward. I'm not the most... Of all the people on earth that you could probably approach and not be scared of would be me, because I'm a tiny little man. He didn't like confront me. He was funny about it. He was just saying you'd never make it in New York City.
Well, what's the point of saying that?
Just be an asshole.
No, I know, but why?
But I don't think people realize they're being assholes.
Who's on the phone? Oh, Scooter.
Oh, Christ. Sorry, Pastor Tim. I washed my mouth out with soap. You were scared of me at the Coach Red Show, yeah. Sorry, sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me when I read the phone screener.
It's not that easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the leaves.
I feel it, Kermit.
It could be nicer.
Steve, what's your favorite Sesame Street segment?
Something much.
From when you were a kid, I loved Grover. I liked the Near or Far. I liked when he was Super Grover.
Yeah.
I liked There's a Fly in My Soup.
Swedish Chef was my favorite.
That's the Muppets, Steve.
Oh, right. Well, Kermit's the Muppets.
Kermit is Sesame Street, and then
so both. Yeah.
Then he got a spinoff.
Sesame Street. I liked Snuffleupagus.
Just like all your friends, he was imaginary.
I like Cookie Monster.
Hello, bird. I liked Cookie Monster. Nothing like gluttony. Nothing like teaching kids gluttony. I like it. Just eat all the cookies, you little fatties. Cookie Monster set a bad example. I'm shocked that you liked him.
Well, because he's easy to imitate. So, like when Emma and Luke were young, like I could be Cookie Monster. My dad is really good at voices, by the way. He could do Bert and Ernie like spot on.
Oh, why don't he call in one day and just be Bert?
Today
and
would be the day.
Yeah.
He should call in.
Wait a couple weeks so we forget about it, and then just call in as Bert. Hey, it's Bert and Ernie on line one.
So he, like when I was a kid, he used to have conversations in both voices, like Bert and Ernie.
My dad never talked to me.
Well, there was like 100 of you, so
my dad didn't talk to me. Thanks for rubbing it in. And your dad's over here doing Bert and Ernie for you.
Scooter James, what's up, Scooter?
Hey, the official one is the Scooter dial. That's the best-selling dial for Sesame Street. Anyway,
what's going on?
Well, first of all, Paulie, I know you're always happy when it's bubble time. This is about the closest thing to a bubble game you're probably going to find coming up Wednesday. Right. So enjoy it one way or the other. Steve, I had a couple questions. First of all, you guys always mention the 20-win seasons, and to me, the goalposts have changed. It's sort of like the 1,000-yard runner in the NFL. Now you're playing 17 games, big deal. These teams are playing 32, 33 games easily. So 20 wins, I don't think is that exciting as compared to years past when you played 27, 28. And if you take the Chaminade win last year, we still don't know when we thought we might be on the bubble that was going to count as a win. So to me, if you're grading, if you have a test and someone answers 20 out of 32 questions correct, it's still about 64, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I guess I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to when you say you keep bringing up the 20 wins. We haven't talked about that.
Last year they won 20 games. Well, they lost 12.
Sure. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this in response. Would you look at last year? Did they exceed expectations, meet expectations, fail to live up to expectations?
Well, I thought basically at the end of the season, we thought maybe they were going to do something, and I thought the NC State game in the ACC tournament was just,
left a bad taste in your mouth. Yeah. I mean, I guess the reason I ask, and I'll let you respond. I think you look at last year, and it was kind of like it was fine. Like it met expectations. It was just kind of like it was average. It was about what you expected. At least it was about what I expected. I think we gave our predictions before the season started. I think we said 20 wins was 19 or 20. I think is what we said. I think it was about what most people expected. It wasn't good, wasn't bad. It was just kind of there. And it was like, all right, let's see what happens in year 2. Now this year has not gone well, obviously, and a lot of reasons for that. But go ahead in reference to last year.
Yeah, well, thank God we had that last second shot against Miami. To win that game, or it could have been 13 losses. But the other thing was, and this is where I'm, you're on the faculty at Syracuse, right? You still teaching?
I mean, I'm an adjunct there. I'm not. I guess I'm not technically a faculty member there, but I'm an adjunct.
I'm talking not just Syracuse. When this thing goes forward, now university is now going to be spending money. It's not going to be the boosters. Are you surprised the faculty is on board with this? I mean, you're going to have a kid, a 17-year-old kid. What happened to Miami? He had was it Beck transfers in? He's had 2 expensive cars stolen. Yeah. Are you going to have? Is the faculty going to feel comfortable where he's going to see an 18-year-old kid making $900,000? And you're shaking your head, and a lot of this might come from the university, where you're asking them for supplies or asking for other stuff that's actually educational.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think it's going to sit well with anybody. I don't think anybody's got a say. I don't think the faculty has a say in it, though. I mean, I get your point. I don't think it sits well with anyone.
What can you do though? They bring in probably more for the university. But there has to be a thing. Like the universities were making money off these kids hand and foot in the past.
Yeah. Let Scooter finish his point. Where were you going with that, Scooter?
No, I'm just saying that this is years down the road. I'm just shocked that the faculties are always I thought were always from the educational standpoint. I haven't heard one person that's been ruled out because of eligibility for education. I don't know if they are out there. I mean, that was the big thing, right?
Sure.
If someone got ineligible, basically it's because of grades or school. I just was wondering when this comes to fruition, when you start hearing about Lampkin making $850,000, he's not a legit star player. I mean, it's not like bringing in somebody that's a name guy that's going to draw in people. I just don't. I don't know where this ends. Where the school's now involved in this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be the boosters. I mean, you go back to the 90s. I mean, the boosters, there was boosters back then that was actually supposedly putting money to try to make the environment around the student athletes. I'm going to use that probably the last time, student athletes, better. The facilities. That's what you donated for. You didn't pay the players, at least not over the table, but you made the facilities better. Coin textiles, no one talks about. That was the artificial turf outside Manly Fieldhouse. They had no place to practice when the fields were wet. I mean, Coin took care of that.
Yeah.
All right. And then you got Metals. Obviously with the transfer in Manly Fieldhouse. So I'm just saying that when this comes to fruition, when all these players are now getting paid, and the faculty sitting there I'm making $100,000 a year, and I'm trying to, I have to have a master's degree, an MBA degree, and everything else, and I got a kid here that might be there for 1 year making $700,000. Yeah. I just know how it sits.
And if that kid's in your class and he's not coming to class or not doing, and I'm not saying that's happening in Syracuse necessarily. I mean, but there are examples like that everywhere, right?
Isn't that life?
Yeah. Right.
Like I'm sitting here doing this stupid radio show, making no money.
Yeah,
Stephen Fonnie's on TV.
I don't know what the solution is.
Count cash like Scrooge McDuck.
Stop. I know people in the chat saying regulated. I agree with something has to be done. You would think at some point to regulate. There has to be some rules in place. There has to be some ceilings that you hit. Because if not, the prices of these athletes are just going to go up and up and up and up and up.
Ultimately, they're going to become employees. They're going to be unionized, and there's going to be a collective bargaining agreement done, just like pro sports.
Yeah, but right now the athletes are cashing in. Right? I mean, the asking price it's going to just keep going up. Because if you're not going to pay me, somebody will. If I'm good enough, someone will pay me what I command.
But you know what's weird is like a Kadari Richmond is making more money now because he wasn't good enough to make an NBA roster.
Yeah, it is.
Is that weird? Like he's being rewarded for not just being above average. You're almost better to be just above average if you want to make a lot of money in college.
It's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, I think Tyus Battle's a perfect example of if this
Jesse Edwards.
Tyus absolutely would have come back. You would think.
Yeah. Jesse Edwards made a boatload of money. He's okay, but like.
Well, the reason I bring up Tyus is that he went with a year of eligibility left because it was really his only option.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, like I think he absolutely would have come back and he could have cashed in, made a lot of money in college. Could have become potentially would have been the all-time leading scorer at Syracuse by the time he was done, and made a lot of money in the process and then go pro. But that wasn't an option back then. He kind of had to go, while his stock was at its highest. And, while he still was relatively young, not that a year would have made a big difference, but, guys just don't, back then didn't stay in college for that long. So, now at least they've got options. And you're right. If they're not first-round draft picks, they're a second-round draft pick. They might as well stay and cash in because you're seeing what those guys can get paid.
I was told Kadari was an NBA player. It's just rotting away on the bench his freshman year. Thank you.
Poking the bear as always. All right, 315-437-7644 if you'd like to check in. We've got to get to today's business at some point. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
If Kadari was going to be in the NBA, he'd be in there this year. He'll probably be in the G League.
Yeah, Gavendo, I don't know that Kadari's an NBA player.
4 to 6 on ESPN Radio Syracuse.
Basketball season is here, and so are some great deals at Burdick Ford in Central Square. Burdick Ford is locally owned and operated, with their staff focused on customer service to help you find the perfect deal. Find a new or used SUV or truck at Burdick Ford. You want confidence you're making the right choice, and Burdick Ford will give you that confidence. Visit Burdick Ford today, just off exit 102 on 81 in Central Square, or at burdickford.com.
Are you ready to dive into a new opportunity, make a splash in your career?
Yes. Syracuse has had that string of developing guards that went to the NBA. It almost was a detriment to this school, how many guards they had that went to the NBA.
Competitive wages, future training opportunities for career growth, and a supportive work culture await.
Apply today in person or online at liverpoolpoolandspa.com/careers. And remember, don't just dream it, live it.
Braswell was a weird one to me because he probably would have gotten a lot of minutes at Syracuse. Like, Boeheim used him correctly. People say he didn't use Kadari correctly. I think Robert Braswell, before he left, was stealing minutes from Alan Griffin, right?
Say that again?
Braswell, I was shocked he left. He was stealing Griffin's minutes at the end of that season.
I was shocked he left and went to Charlotte. If that was his best option, why not stay?
Nobody disrespects Kadari's work ethic.
It's important to know how these changes apply to your own tax situation. I encourage you to take control of your taxes this year by letting Grossman Seymour CPAs help you. Visit us online at gsacpas.com.
Hello, Syracuse. Dave Anthony here for Romano Mazda, where we're loaded with 75 of the
I'm freezing right now. Sick of being cold. He played defense too. Like, he's what you wanted Chris Bell to be. And then he went to Charlotte, which is weird.
Today's business here?
Yeah.
And then I got to leave right after the show.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair. Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
No one brings you more Syracuse football coverage. We are live and local on Galaxy Media Partner Station, ESPN Radio Syracuse. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on CuseSportsTalk.com.
Gotta go with a theme song, right?
Sunny day, sleeping rough, clouds away. On my way to where the air is safe.
Why is this the artist of the day today?
I'll tell you when the banger of the song for the reason happens.
Okay.
Can we just listen to the theme? Everything's okay. Like, I want to go to Sesame Street. It sounds wonderful. Sesame Street sounds wonderful right now. There's people living in trash cans and they're happy about it. And, nothing goes wrong. There's like weird hairy elephants and giant birds. And
I know we have the guy on from the Strong Museum, the National Toy Hall of Fame once a year. Have you ever been to the Strong Museum?
No.
They have the Sesame Street steps there, and you can take your picture on the Sesame Street steps.
Yeah, you remember Gordon?
Mm-hmm.
He was my favorite human.
He's no longer with us.
Yeah, I would assume so. He was old when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember when he died.
Mr. Hooper?
Yep. I remember that episode when Mr. Hooper died.
Yeah, thanks for reminding everybody. You're a downer today.
No, I'm just saying, like, they were staples on the show.
Now we're all old. And they're gone. And life sucks. And
Life was so much simpler.
And Kadari Richmond's at St. John's. All right, go ahead, Jordan. What do you got? Today's business brought to you by who, Steve?
Grossman St. Moore CPAs.
And you, Jordan, their website.
GSACPAs.com. I will start this by saying every time we do a Sesame Street Day, I request Do the Rubber Duck, which is Ernie's bathtub reggae banger, which features a large part of the Sesame Street cast, and it never gets played. So that's worth tossing out there.
It's got to be an OG. It's got to be original to the street.
Yeah, it's
got to have street cred, if you know what I mean.
It's not like we've done this before and heard most of these songs already. And
We've done Sesame Street Day?
No, we've done Muppets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I remember Muppets. I don't remember doing Sesame Street.
Well, I've requested Do the Rubber Duck before, so it's definitely
been
an option.
Yeah. Life sucks sometimes, kids.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Sometimes you don't get the Rubber Duck song you want.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Speaking of requests, Diana Rossini of The Athletic reports that the team that requested to end the tush push, the brotherly shove, the Eagles play
Good for them.
where they line up and move 1 yard forward with all their might, is the Green Bay Packers. They chose to remain anonymous in announcing that proposal, but somehow Diana Rossini knows. Is that soft, voting to try and ban the tush push, or do you think that there maybe should be some steam behind banning it?
I hate it.
I hate it as well. And obviously, I'm a Bills fan, and my quarterback is pretty good at it.
He's a man.
He
doesn't need to
wasn't
have
good
his
in
tush
the
push.
biggest game of the year, but I think it is it's a benefit to the Bills. It's a benefit to the Eagles. There's certain teams that have figured it out and executed well. I don't like it. I would be fine if they got rid of it. It's almost like, especially when the Eagles line, there's right now there's no way to stop it. I think, and it is like, Sean McDermott brought up yesterday that it is an injury concern. I agree with that. So if the league is serious about, player safety and whatnot, I don't see the problem with outlawing it. I think it's, does anybody like it other than if you're an Eagles fan?
I like a good tush push every once in a
Do you?
while, but not in football.
Rugby?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
No, the whole thing is odd. Was it in the Super Bowl, or was it the game before that where we saw a player just jump over the line that was before. That was the Commanders game, where, the official was like, yeah, I can just give them points if I want, so stop the crap.
Yeah.
That's my one issue with it. I mean, first of all, if you look when the Eagles do it, they line up over the line of scrimmage, first of all, which I feel like that should be addressed, but it's just kind of tough because they choose when to go. So there's literally no way to stop it. But also, how many advantages have we seen the offense get in football? So maybe it's time for the defense to get one. I kind of agree. I'm sick of it, but physicality is part of football.
Yeah, I'd be totally fine if they eliminated it. I think it would make 4th and 1 more interesting than it is now.
All right, Dateline, Melbourne, Australia.
That was it? One thing?
Yeah, we're out of time.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're running out of time.
Dateline, Melbourne, Australia. How would you feel if you were on a flight and someone passed away on the flight, Steve?
Depends who it is.
As they were walking down the aisle, all right? But the person was so big that they couldn't move them, so they just sat them next to you for the whole flight. 4 hours.
Dead?
Yes.
What?
So yeah, there's a couple suing a airline in Australia because they were forced to sit next to a dead body for 4 hours.
How did that? I mean,
yeah, they
there's
should
so
get
many questions.
Free flights for the rest of their life. That's crazy.
You don't have to worry about them talking to you, though.
How did they get them moved from wherever they were?
The lady dropped dead right next to them in the aisle on the way to the bathroom.
In the aisle.
And they couldn't resuscitate her, and then she was too big to move this way. So
how long were they?
They had 4 more hours of the flight.
And there was no other place to land.
They were on their way to Venice for
no other place to land, you said?
Yeah.
Well, then it gets into ethics because
is it just going to drop a dead body off in the middle of nowhere?
Well, not even drop the dead body off, but then
that's
is
an
it fair
emergency.
to inconvenience? You're not doing anything about it. Is it fair to inconvenience the rest of the flight because one group of people has to sit next to a dead person?
I think I think everyone would understand. We need to land 4 hours. It's not like sit tight for 45 minutes. It's 4 hours. We might want to make an emergency landing.
Well, I don't know. It's do you believe in utilitarianism? Because if you do, then I don't think you're landing that plane early. You're telling that one group, suck it up, everybody's on this flight. But at the same time, if I'm that group of people, I'm PO'd. It's a true philosophical dilemma, Steve.
Man.
I would be, if it wasn't sitting next to me, I'd be like, we're not landing this plane because you've got to sit next to a dead body. You're getting me to my destination on time.
In all seriousness.
No way. No way.
Hang on. If they said that everybody saw that there was a medical emergency, everybody saw that this person died.
Okay.
You don't think if the pilot said we're going to make an emergency landing and deal with this, you don't think people would have understood that?
No, I do. I was being
okay. All right.
But it's also no longer an emergency once the person's.
We were flying to London in 2017, I don't know, several years ago.
I was flying to London.
No. But listen, and there was a medical emergency on the plane as we were over the ocean. Now, fortunately, the person ended up being okay, but somebody passed out. There happened to be a doctor on the plane. But like, I would understand
Did they have the chicken or the fish?
From Airplane. That's an Airplane reference. I would understand, like, if there was a chance to land the plane somewhere, like, quickly, like, I would get it as a passenger. You know, it was nerve-wracking for everybody involved. Anyway.
Poor Newhouse kids are going to have to be late because we talked about a dead person.
We'll wrap things up next on
pick an
ESPN
artist
Radio.
in 30 seconds.
How you doing, Jordan?
Never been better. How you doing?
Like it when your dog rubs up and down on your leg? That was my airplane joke of the day.
What are the options? Let us know now. We'll pick quick. Because I have to leave immediately. I have a really important meeting.
Oh, I'm so important.
I didn't say that. I have a meeting that we delayed. It was supposed to be at 2, and they pushed it back because of radio. But I need to get there as soon as I can.
What's wrong with Adam Weitzman? I don't care.
Leanne Rhymes.
With the head of
Michael Bolton. Michael Bolton, Leanne Rhymes, Pet Shop Boys.
Have we ever done Pet Shop Boys? We did, right? Did we do them once?
The Ann Rhymes doesn't sound like a fun time.
Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
What are they famous for?
I don't know, but he died of a heart attack in 1977.
You take a bullet like Paul Davis?
Doo-wop singer Frankie Lyman.
Oh, yep, that's the one. The doo-wop.
Oh, his name's Sherman Garnes. Is it Sherman Garnes of Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers?
Wait. Is Sherman Garnes a different guy and there is a Frankie Lyman, or is Frankie Lyman a made-up name?
I don't know. It seems to me that Frankie Lyman was the lead singer and he was a doo-wop singer.
All right.
If it's doo-wop, I'm voting for doo-wop.
All right. I'm going Pet Shop Boys.
Doo-wop.
All right, I got to pick one.
Unless there's another.
I got to go Pet Shop Boys, too. Just because.
Doing our wop and now we're feeling great.
I would have gone Michael Bolton.
Rock bottom's losing to and
You were rushing me.
I could. You can talk me into Michael Bolton if you want.
No, that's fine. Pet Shop Boys are fine. Opportunities. Let's make lots of money.
Fans think Adrian Autry's a hack.
But I'm sure Frankie Lyman was a gentleman and a scholar.
Doo-wop.
I like his name.
I don't think I'm doo-wopping. I think I'm just doing Jailhouse Rock and snap a little bit.
Lyman was more famous as a solo, but became known with the group from Philly's Most Wanted. He's a Lyman expert.
Do we know how, if that's his real name, Philly's Most Wanted? And if not, how he came up with it? Kind of just feels like he put an L in front of Simon.
Who has passion in his show? It's not me. I have no passion for this show. I hate this place.
How much time?
Why does my chat keep on? Someone asked me a question.
Is this next song the reason that we did Sesame Street today?
Yes.
So say that quick and then we'll...
Oh, my God. You're so needy. I spelled Ducky wrong when I saved it.
So we're going to 55-50? 55-50?
Sure.
So we're going to have like a minute?
Sure.
I don't know.
We're going to have to talk quickly.
You're making me uncomfortable.
I am?
Yeah, I don't know why you're pushing me.
Because we got to wrap it up. We got to wrap.
You're rushing me, and I'm my magic doesn't just get rushed. It happens naturally. I'm sorry you have a meeting. I have a job to do, and that's to entertain people on the radio.
Well, then our time is up.
I don't have a TV show to fall back on. Where everybody knows me from.
You're the one.
Rubber Ducky is our Sesame Street was our artist of the day today, Steve, because on this day in 1970, Rubber Ducky peaked at number 16 on the Hot 100 charts.
How about that? Artist of the day tomorrow. We made the decision during the break. We're going with Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah.
Because we are out of time. We've got Newhouse afternoons coming up next. Cody at 3, Brian at 4. We are back at it noon tomorrow. Game day tomorrow inside the Dome between Syracuse and NC State. We are out of time. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.